Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles Sabanson. Welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we'll give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And folks, we have a hell of a show in store for y'all today. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. So this is a topic that I'm really going to enjoy. And the reason I'm going to enjoy it is, number one, it's going to piss off some LeBron fans. We can never miss an opportunity to do that. And number two, is going to create a lot of conversation with super teams and unfair advantages and all of that, right? So there have always been kind of super teams throughout the history of the NBA. If you look at the Celtics in the past, they were really known for a super team. Of course, you had the Celtics with Bird in them as well. They could have been viewed as a super team as well. Some people can look at the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic Johnson, Kareem, Worthy, and all of those guys. Some people can view that as a super team. But the one that we think about when we talk about super teams is really the 2011 Miami Heat, and I think the 2017 Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, right? But the one that, I mean, people like to talk about the Boston Celtic Big Three that had Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. The only difference with that team, and it was a super team, but the only difference with that team was that these guys were in their 30s already, and they'd played a long time alone. And it was like, okay, well, if we're going to have a chance to win a championship, it's now or never. But they'd already established themselves, and all of those guys were in their 30s. But if you look at that Miami Heat team, LeBron, I think, formed that team when he was 26. D. Wade must have been 29, if I'm not mistaken. Chris Bosh was also in his 20s. So they were a very young team, and they were a super team. Don't let anybody confuse you. That was a super team. All right. It was one of the reasons they went out and won 27 games in a row their first year. They were heavy favorites to win the NBA championship. And it's one of the reasons why that's the biggest stain on LeBron's legacy, because of how favored they were in the finals. So for them to lose that finals, it just shows you how heavily favored they were. And of course, you had the KD super team. Now, one of the people there's always taking a shot at super teams and Kevin Durant for, especially when you talk about you're back, you're not even a bus driver, you're back at the bus or whatever it is. It's Charles Barkley, right? So Charles Barkley was recently on the podcast Come Talk to Me with Mark Jackson and his son, and he was asked to kind of weigh in on what he thinks about super teams. And in typical Charles Barkley fashion, he just started going off about why he hates super teams, and then he started to explain the reason why, you know, they didn't create super teams back when he played. And as he said, if he knew that later on people would hold it against him later in his career for him not winning NBA championships, maybe he would have. But before we even get into what Chuck had to say, today's video is brought to you by sponsor, Game Time. With the year almost over, I am super excited about creating memories with family and friends by attending various plays, theater shows, and sporting events. And when it comes time to look for tickets, Game Time is my go-to. Game Time is one of the most reliable marketplaces for last-minute tickets to the most popular events in sports, music, and theater in more than 60 cities across the United States and Canada. Game Time saves me money, time, and stress. It finds the best deals and guarantees that the tickets are legit, and it makes sure that the tickets are delivered to me on time. Game Time Picks is my favorite tool. It cuts through the fluff and shows you the best deals on great seats near you so you don't waste time searching. For example, I'm really looking forward to this upcoming game between the Lakers and the Clippers. Here's what I like to do. First, I select an all-in price to see the total ticket price up front, so I'm not surprised by the additional fees at checkout. Next, I click on Game Time Picks to check out their curated deals. And finally, I pick the ticket I want. I choose the cheapest deal, the great deal, or the amazing deal. Once you select the ticket you want, you can use their panoramic seat view to ensure you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and use redeem code CLNS for $20 off. And remember, whenever you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So what we want to do now is we're going to play exactly what Charles Barkley had to say about super teams and all of that. And then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
you talk. I've heard you talk about super teams before and your dislike for them. But when you watch today's game, is there a player that you look and say to yourself, man, I would love to have played with him?
Well, you know, I hate super teams because you're cheating. If they had told me back in my day they were going to hold it against me, I was like, well, I want to go to play with Michael Jordan or Bird and Magic. Like, yeah. If y'all gonna like say I didn't win anything, yeah, let me know that. Not after the fact. I was like, wait, we could have teamed up and won. Excuse me. But if you ask the guys, Bird and Magic, their legacy is against each other. Michael, I got my shot against Michael. Patrick got his shot against Michael. Karl Malone got his shot against Michael. Ain't no shame in losing to the greatest player ever. We got our shot, and it was a hell of a game. Yeah, it's so funny. Sometimes people act like we got swept. I was like, damn, Patrick, they had some game sevens. Reggie and the Pacers had some sevens. Carl, they went six. When I played the Bulls in the championship, we went six. I said, so as great as Michael was, all you want is a shot. But if I'd have known they were going to judge it against me, I was like, yo, man, let's get together this summer and team up. But, man, I don't feel no type of way. I'm happy with what I accomplished. I've exceeded all my expectations.
So you heard what Charles Barkley had to say, right? You heard what he had to say. What are my thoughts on this? Well, I think the first thing people are going to say in response to Charles is, well, look at what you did in Houston with Scottie Pippen and those guys. And the fundamental difference is those guys, again, were old, right? Scottie and these guys were old. Charles, these guys were old. So it's a totally different thing. When KG and these guys joined up, they were old. But if you look at what the Warriors and the Heat did, those guys were very, very young. And what made KD's story even crazier was the fact that he joined the team that had beat him. I think they blew a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals to the Warriors. And then the Warriors, I think, then he ended up joining that same Warriors team the next season. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. So there's that little wrinkle there. But nevertheless, those were two super teams. Here's the fact of the matter. Even though Kevin Durant won 2 Finals MVPs with that Warriors team, he's a 2-time NBA champion, people still hold it over his head and say, well, what has Kevin Durant done outside of Stephen Curry? And I thought that was unfair because when people were saying that Stephen Curry hadn't done anything outside, like, yeah, he won that first championship, but one could make an argument that those guys were injured with Cleveland, and I think Kyrie was injured, I think after game 1, if my memory serves me right. It was a very long time ago. So I think Stephen Curry was able to really solidify himself in the all-time standings when he won that title as the main guy against the Boston Celtics. That particular championship worked wonders for his career. Now, if you look at LeBron, yes, LeBron can be viewed as having super teams, but the fact of the matter is, when LeBron won a championship in Cleveland, that was his most important championship of his career. That was the most important one. Not the one in Miami. Nobody cared about that, really. Not even the one in LA. It's the one in Cleveland because of where he's from, the history of the organization, and the fact that he did it as the main guy. Now, Kyrie was spectacular, scoring 40 in the finals. You're spectacular. Hitting the biggest shot, arguably in NBA history. You're spectacular. You had a 26-12 guy in Kevin Love before he joined the Cavs that year. He's spectacular as well. But none of those guys are like top 75 guys. So I think that particular championship really solidified LeBron's legacy. The same thing with Stephen Curry. The same thing with Kawhi Leonard. The same thing with Dirk Nowitzki. The same thing with Kobe in those back-to-back rings. So the one person that hasn't had that moment is Kevin Durant. And I think that if KD, for example, were to win a championship this season with the Phoenix Suns, that would work wonders for his legacy. And that monkey would finally be off his back. And KD is going through something similar to what Kobe did with Shaq. Because it was this narrative, oh, Shaq carried you. So Kobe's like, okay, y'all, this is what y'all believe? Okay, let me show y'all what I could do. He went on there, won 2 championships without Shaq. All right, he carried him. He won 2. All I know is that when they broke up, Shaq got 1, he got 2. So Kobe was able to now shut those naysayers up, although some of them tried to creep up every now and then. But I understand what Charles is saying. Back then, it was a different mindset. Totally different mindset. He's not the only one that holds this mindset. Michael Jordan himself said it, especially after that Miami Heat Big Three, whatever it was. Jordan said, back in the day, I was trying to beat Bird and these guys. I wasn't trying to join them. He said that wasn't much of a competitive thing for me to go join these guys. But of course, time has changed. And I think that Charles Barkley is speaking from his era and his perspective. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because a lot of people concur with Charles Barkley. A lot of people do. Like, a lot of people do. But of course, there are people that are going to have pushback on some of the things that Charles Barkley had to say there. So what I want to know from you guys, what do you think about what Charles Barkley had to say? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you on the next show. Peace.